Hi everybody, this is Michael Olin-Hitt. What follows is part 2 of my presentation on cultivating spiritual gifts. I hope you find it inspirational. Well, a lot of people don't realize is we get guidance in the traditions about why do we cultivate these things. And it's not about you. There are a lot of people that kind of get stuck in their manifestations and they use it for an edification of self. It's not about you, ladies and gentlemen. It's about the way you can give it and use it. And there's a big sense of humility that should come through because you don't deserve it. None of us do. Struggle with this for 18 years. Because, it's not about you, but it does come through you with a signature that's unique. And we do have a responsibility to try to explain it and practice it. To practice it, you usually have to explain it at least a little bit. It's very hard. What I've learned is, with my gift, where a spiritual guide speaks through me, I've learned that I used to struggle with how much is me and how much is the sacred. And the messenger told me, it's both. Why are you asking? Because what's happening here is a merging between the spirit and you. There's no division. It's both. And what I've learned is the Holy uses our cultural experience, our language, our structures of knowing to communicate things that are just beyond it. So, the 7-day Genesis creation story, the world is flat, it's held up by pillars, there's waters below, waters above, the firmament separates the waters from the waters. The Holy was using their conception of the universe to communicate a sacred story. I'm convinced it was inspired. So now we have a whole different and new conception of the universe. Think what the Holy can do with that. But somehow we think that the story is locked in about 508 BC, when things started getting written down and stuck. We think that's the Word of God. The Word of God comes and comes and comes. And all I can do is try to be as humble as I can and tell people this is not about me. I don't even know why it comes to me. I don't deserve it. I didn't earn it. I don't know. But I have a sense of responsibility to use it. And if it comes to me and I'm a writer, I better write about it. There's just this, I'll talk about the responsibility you end up feeling. But I guess my point is, what Black Elk says is we are a hollow bone. Just an understanding that you are a human being and a person, you have a responsibility, but this stuff coming through you has nothing to do with you except that you're available and somehow you're tuned to this particular gift. That's a gift from the Creator. I think we inherit it both from our spiritual inheritance and our biological inheritance, because my mom had my gift. They run in families. I don't know why. So this is what Black Elk says in Black Elk Speaks, one of my favorite books. I cured with the power that came through me. Of course, it was not I who cured. Right. It was the power from the outer world. And the visions and ceremonies had only made me like a hole through which the power could come to the two-leggeds. If I thought that I was doing it myself, the hole would close up. And no power could come through, and everything I could do would be foolish. So there's the distinction. Is knowing that this comes through me. It's not my power, it's the sacred, right? Or the earth, it's the energy of grandmother. I think there are lots of sources, and I think we need to honor the way people express and understand that source. Because it's the real thing. But we have different language. Buddha advised not to manifest spiritual gifts. They were a distraction from the ultimate goal. He would not allow his monks to perform these manifestations in public. They distract people. Jesus had the opposite approach. In the book of John, they're called signs. He was using miracles and manifestations to reveal the work of the Creator of God. Buddha stripped out even the concept of God because it's a distraction. It limits. So here's a good story. There are stories that he could levitate and do all sorts of stuff. But this is 500 years before Jesus. So, the stories are handed down. So there's a story about the Buddha. He's sitting on a riverbank and a person challenges him. This person walks on the water. And then he walks back to the Buddha and he challenges the Buddha to do the same. And the Buddha says, how much is a ferry ride across this river? He says, not much, to Puruna. And the Buddha says, that's how much that spiritual manifestation is worth. Whoa.
In getting there, but that's what all this is the 4D, is the manifestation of all of the magical qualities, the spiritual qualities that we all have. It's a manifestation of that as we are raising up to
we call them different things.
Right.
I happen to not like the phrase, I'm patient with it, raising my vibration.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck is that? And then I realize it's kind of what I've experienced, where when the messenger first came to me, I would twitch a lot. It looked like I had cerebral palsy. And now that happens very little. My body is getting used to the energy. I think that's raising your vibration, I think.
Yeah. Kind of raising up out of,
being tuned into that level of energy, which is pretty intense. You can call it raising consciousness. You can call it a lot of things, and I think we need to have patience with the different terminologies and not judge, oh, that's all new agey stuff. One of the things that the messenger has taught to me, and so I'll share it, because I am fascinated with the wisdom literature of the traditions. Because I keep finding the messages that come to me. The wisdom literature of a tradition is not the history, not the prophecy, it's how to be. Okay? So the Judeo-Christian tradition, it's Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Job, but I don't like Job. And Jesus was a wisdom teacher. His aphorisms and his parables are wisdom teaching. Okay? So if this is in the book, it was probably 12 years ago, the messenger said there is the self within, and there is the self beyond the self. The self within the self beyond. So the self is what we show to the world. It's kind of our mask. It's what helps us function. The self within the self, the messenger said, is our spiritual sensitivities. It lets us know that we are connected to a spiritual world. And the messenger said, you can get stuck in that place because it's enticing, it's engaging. And the messenger said, you need to take that to the self beyond the self, which is a self without self. That's the merging with the holy, the spiritual realm. And once you bring your gift back from there, you get that knowing that I don't even have a self. This is not about me at all. This is about some cultural construct and physical body. And I'm more than this physical body because I've been there, and that allows you to practice your gift as who you are with the knowledge that you are beyond and everybody else is too. So that was a helpful lesson to me. And I found in Hinduism, the ultimate goal of Hinduism is the self with the big S. And I was like, oh my gosh. The Bhagavad Gita right there, one of my favorite wisdom books actually, it's beautiful, is what I've been taught. Hey, Paul tells us how to use these gifts. In love. A lot of you may not realize, but that love chapter, 1 Corinthians 13, it's not about marriage. It's used in marriage all the time. It's about spiritual gifts. He lists the spiritual gifts in chapter 12. In chapter 13, he tells you how to use them. If I speak in the tongues of angels and men, this translation says mortals and angels, that's speaking in tongues. But do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowing, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions and if I hand over my body so that I may boast but do not have love, I gain nothing. And here's the part you know. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. That's very Zen, by the way. It is not irritable, resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. Now it gets back to spiritual gifts. But as for prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will come. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. For we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. There's that limitation, the human limitation of prophecy. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. When I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put away an end to childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part. Then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. And now faith, hope, and love abide, these three things, and the greatest of these is love. Do you see the context of this passage? Spiritual gifts.